stand against hate. I stand against racism. I stand against anti-Semitism. And I hate that that line was stuck in there. That's accountability. So when we're asking you these questions and you're ducking and you're not answering them directly, that's not a culture of a war. What was the term? A war ethos, a warrior ethos.
What comes next will shock you. And yes, we've got more live footage of that in a second. Consider the staggering reality of allocating $45 million not towards housing for military families or care for veterans, but instead on a lavish parade, a spectacle, while our troops reside in deteriorating barracks. This is precisely what Pete Hegseth stood by, and Representative Wesley Bell was quick to challenge. It raises a critical question about our values and how we choose to honor those who serve. Investing in the well-being of our military personnel should take precedence over extravagant displays, ensuring that they have the basic necessities and support they deserve.
Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Bell.
Mr. Secretary, unlike my colleague down the dais, I don't feel sorry for you. I visited with soldiers in war zones whose life is on the line, so a few tough questions. I think you'll be okay. And so my first question is, are you authorized to disclose intelligence that will put our troops in harm's way to our enemies?
Well, I reject the premise of the
Just saying,
question.
just as a hypothetical, are you authorized to do that?
I have not and do not.
Exactly, and I assume that. So when you told our ranking member that everything that you say is authorized, that wasn't completely accurate, correct?
What I said is that every way that I communicate is
No,
authorized.
you actually said everything that you said is authorized. I wrote it down. Now, with that said, and the reason I bring that up is because it's about accountability. And we're talking about this war ethos. The primary component of that is accountability. And I'm going to indulge me in a quick analogy. Republicans introduced a bill on the House floor a few days ago, a resolution standing against terror, racism, hate, anti-Semitism, which as an African, as an American, as a black man, I'm going to stand against those things 6 times a week, twice on Sunday. Now, the nefarious part was there was a line that was stuck at the end of that resolution that essentially gave a shout out to law enforcement, which I do support, but also to ICE, which right now, a lot of Americans have a problem with the way ICE is being deployed. And I'm not happy with what they're doing, nor do I want to shout them out for that. And so accountability was, I didn't duck from the question. I went and I talked to my constituents. I went on social media. I did interviews to explain exactly where I stood, that I stand against hate. I stand against racism. I stand against anti-Semitism. And I hate that that line was stuck in there. That's accountability. So when we're asking you these questions and you're ducking and you're not answering them directly, that's not a culture of a war. What was the term? A war ethos, a warrior ethos. I'm looking at members who serve, and they're taking their lead from you. That starts with you. And if we have troops who are in war zones and they're watching while they're risking their lives, and you can't just answer some tough questions, what kind of culture is that setting? So, as a prosecutor, when I think about what's happening in California and around the country with ICE, it's not only dangerous and unconstitutional, but it raises serious public safety concerns because we have people with masks that are going around saying that they're ICE, and we've had reports of that, saying that they're ICE and committing crimes. And that's a big problem. But it gets me back to the point of the accountability piece. So, for example, do you believe quality military housing is important? Yes or no? And just keep your mic on for time because I don't only have a minute left.
Our budget commits to robust military housing and barracks.
Do you believe military children deserve a strong education?
Our budget funds strong education, and we hope more educational choices for military.
Love it. Is it a priority to provide real, reliable care to our veterans?
Of course.
So, Mr. Secretary, we have a problem here because your answers don't match your budget priorities. You said your mission is to restore this warrior ethos, and that threats we face are serious, but so must our investments. So when we think of, for example, a $45 million parade, I can think of 45 million things we could do more effectively with $45 million than a parade, such as the things that I mentioned: military housing, military children's education, providing reliable care for our veterans. All of these things would be higher on the priority than a parade. And so the parade, and when we talk about showing strength, we're not talking about theater. We're not talking about showmanship. We're talking about things that actually make our military more lethal and keeps us safer. And so what I'm saying is that in my limited time left is accountability does matter, and this body cares about what our military is doing, because we care about national security, and we all take it very seriously.
Gentleman's time has expired.
But what came next cut deeper than anyone expected, a moment that exposed the real priorities behind the patriotic slogans. This moment wasn't about trimming decimals in a spreadsheet. It was about values, about what we choose to honor when no one's cheering and the cameras aren't rolling. Congressman Wesley Bell stepped into that hearing not to trade slogans, but to force a reckoning. If soldiers can't duck accountability on the battlefield, then a defense secretary nominee doesn't get to duck it in a hearing. Bell started with the basics, the human basics. With the private staring down a second deployment while his kid's school on base struggles to keep a full-time math teacher. With the sergeant living in a barracks room where the HVAC dies every August and the ceiling leaks every March. With the young family commuting 40 minutes because base housing is waitlisted into next. That's the reality, Bell said. That is the daily grind that never makes it into glossy recruitment ads. Then he pivoted, steady, unblinking. Let's talk about priorities, Bell said, not the press releases, the actual choices. And in the silence that followed, he laid out the headline number: $45 million, not for live fire training ranges, not for night vision upgrades, cyber readiness, or replacing ancient water lines under base housing. $45 million for a military parade pageantry optics, a one-day spectacle. Bell didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He let the contrast speak for itself. $45 million. Hegseth tried the familiar root talking points about warrior ethos, the honor of service, the symbolism of national pride. Bell didn't swipe at the symbolism. He honored it and then pushed past it. Symbolism without substance, he said, is a costume. The warrior ethos doesn't live in a flyover. It lives in a barracks room that isn't black molded, in a school with enough teachers and gear that doesn't fail when it counts. You don't prove strength with a parade. To ground it, Bell reached for the frontline realities, combat zone logistics, casualty evacuation timelines, the unglamorous math of spare parts and maintenance hours. He laid out how readiness is built in schedules and training cycles, in technicians who don't leave because they can't afford to stay, in families who can survive the 14th without losing their savings or their sanity. If you want a military that can outthink, outmove, and outlast, you invest in the everyday, because the everyday is what wins tomorrow. Then, Bell widened the lens. Accountability, he said, isn't just a military word. It's a governing word. That's why he drew a line to the ICE abuses he'd flagged. Masked individuals impersonating ICE agents, using fear as leverage, exploiting the chaos of broken systems. These aren't abstract headlines, they're human ruptures. Bell's point was simple and devastating. When leaders tolerate fog, people get hurt. Back to the dais. Bell moved into yes or no territory, the kind that exposes whether principles can survive contact with specifics. Do you support quality military housing? Asterisk, yes. Do military children deserve a strong education? Asterisk, of course. Should we prioritize care for veterans? Asterisk, absolutely. Bell nodded and pulled the thread everyone could see. Then why? Asterisk, he asked. Does this budget... The answers didn't come not because there weren't words to say, but because the numbers had already been spoken. Budgets are moral documents. They show what we truly believe, not what we wish we believed. Hegseth tried to recast the parade as a unifier, a morale boost, a nationally televised salute. Bell didn't knock the salute. He questioned the arithmetic. If morale is the goal, fund what troops and families say lifts it: predictable schedules, safe housing, stable schools, strong clinics, and a path that doesn't punish spouses for moving every 2 years. If unity is the goal, honor the oath we all claim to the Constitution, not to a political storyline. The parade isn't the point, the people are. And then Bell did what the best oversight does: he tied the themes together. Readiness, accountability, soldiers, Bell said. Soldiers don't get to spin reality at mile marker 43 of a convoy, they live it. If we're going to ask for that kind of courage from them, we owe them courage here, the courage to choose care over spectacle, maintenance over vanity, the mission over the moment. He painted the scene we never see on parade day, the staff duty NCO walking past a housing office with a line out the door, a young specialist filling out forms to treat a knee that never healed right, a parent trying to snag one of the few available slots at the CDC, a spouse hunting jobs in a town that wasn't on their life plan until the Army put it there. These, Bell said, are the people we say we honor. So let's honor them with choices, not all of them are leadership. Bell returned briefly to the pattern that bothered him most, the dodge. The reflex to refrain from tough questions is unfair, to wave at patriotism while stepping around proof. He warned that this is how institutions decay, not in one dramatic fall, but in 100 small evasions. Hegseth tried one more time to cast the parade as a unifying national moment. Bell didn't flinch. Unity, asterisk, he said, is not something we rent for an afternoon. Unity is something we build every day in how we fund, maintain, train, and care. If the military is a promise, the budget is the proof. And if the proof points in the wrong direction, it's not unifying, it's unraveling. The closing minutes brought the hearing to its moral center. Bell asked the question that lingers after the microphone switches off. What message do we want every private, every petty officer, every airman, every Marine to hear? Asterisk. That will throw a parade once a year, or that every single day we will choose them over the easy optics. The right answer isn't complicated. It's just costly because it requires trading applause for accountability. Bell ended as he began quiet, firm, and immune to the sugar rush of spectacle. Leadership, asterisk, he said. Asterisk isn't what you do in front of a camera, it's what your people can count on when the camera's gone. Asterisk. If we mean what we say about honoring service, then we prove it where it counts. In the housing office, the clinic, the classroom, the motor pool, the flight line. Paint can hide a crack for a day, but funding the fix prevents the collapse. And that's why this wasn't just a skirmish over a line item. It was a test of priorities, of honesty, of whether we still believe that strength is built, not staged. If you care about national security, fiscal responsibility, and how we treat those who serve, you already know the answer. Bell was pressing for choose people over pageantry every time. Asterisk. If that resonates with you, if you believe budgets should reflect real values, help this reach more people. Share this video, drop a comment with what you think the top priority should be, and subscribe for more straight talk oversight. Because the next hearing won't be about confetti, it'll be about whether we're finally ready to fund the future our service members deserve. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you will like the next video as well.